Dear colleagues, we are now moving to item 10, the final item on the agenda. We had hundreds of items on the agenda, several hundreds that we went through in this term of office in our committee. Item 10, the achievements of the 9th term of the Parliament, exchange of opinions with our excellent friend, I can say, of our FAM committee, Commissioner Dalli and her team. And I would like to welcome her wholeheartedly in this committee. Madam Commissioner, dear guests, dear colleagues, this parliamentary term is coming to an end. It's been an honor and a great pleasure for me to preside over this last meeting of the FEM committee in the 9th term. In the House of European Democracy, we have been working here ever since 1979, where Simone Weil, as the President of the Parliament at the time, initiated the workings of this committee, and over many years our committee proved how important it was. Now, this last meeting, as I said, within the 9th term, and on this occasion I would like to extend a warm welcome to our excellent guest and ally, Commissioner Helena Dalli, whose help is always appreciated. She was always ready to support us, and we're very thankful for that. My thanks also refer to accepting our invitation. One thing is certain, we can all be proud of the work that we conducted and many successful actions we took for equal chances of men and women. All those things that were our priorities during this term. As we all know, people tend to forget, including people in Parliament. They tend to forget that it's our duty under EU treaties, Article 2, Article 3.3 on the Treaty of the European Union, and Article 21 of the Charter of the Fundamental Rights of the Union, as well as Article 8 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. They all mention gender mainstreaming in such a way that no one is excluded. It is important to remember that it is impossible to briefly summarize all the fruitful work that we did. Undoubtedly, we checked this, and we can be very proud as members of this committee, because in the history of the FAM committee, it was during this term where we grew a lot in importance. In this term of office, we have done the most legislative work ever since the beginning, ever since 1979. And that's your success. So I'm very thankful for that. There were very important legislative dossiers that were successfully completed, in some cases after years of political deadlock in the Council. It was our friends and colleagues who came back to the directive on women on boards. Ms. Regner, who presided this committee before me, was responsible, among other things, for the negotiations of the Equality Bodies Directive. And the objective was to improve gender balance on company boards. We were able to finalize it 10 years after the Parliament prepared its first reading position. It took as many as 10 years. Another important directive was Equal Pay Directive, which was headed by Samira Rafael. I remember there were moments where we were afraid that the negotiations led by Samira would end with nothing being achieved, but thanks to her involvement, wisdom and determination in negotiations, we finally arrived at a situation where today we can be proud of our great success. I'm very thankful for that, Samira, to you personally. Our achievements under the directive resulted in equal pay, which was inscribed in the Rome Treaty. And over 67 years, read my words, 67 years, this directive was not adopted, was not implemented, nothing was done on the issue. It took 67 years. It's a shame, I suppose, for this entire institution. But then again, it's a huge success for Samira or Commissioner Dalli, who worked on the issue. Yet another important directive was the directive on equality bodies. Ms. Pietikainen was negotiating in the name of our committee. The directive provides for equal chances and aid to victims of discrimination. It's yet another success of our committee. In this term of office, we made important headway on something that is the priority in the working of our committee, namely fighting against violence we also joined the Istanbul Convention. Ms. Okolari was responsible in our committee for working. Sylwia Spurek was also working on it, as well as many other colleagues who worked on this breakthrough document. We also finalized successfully the negotiations on a very difficult document on violence against women and violence in the home, and this was led by Frances Fitzgerald, to whom I would like to give my thanks for her work. And also on this issue, it would seem that we reached a deadlock and we would not be able to arrive at a success, but thanks to the leadership of Frances, we finally are going to vote on it during the next plenary, and I hope it will be successful. Thanks a lot, Francis, in the name of our entire committee. The European Union allowed member states to join ILO Convention on Violence and Harassment. This is a first such legal act which would be applicable in the workplace. Cindy Locke was the leading person on this. We also, I remember at the time, we congratulated Madame Rodriguez-Palot on the negotiations, which concluded only in the morning, and we were starting work in the committee, and she was coming back from the directive. It was the directive on trade in human beings, trafficking of human beings. This was very important in the context of the war in the Ukraine, because something that is affecting us quite clearly. And during the negotiation, we included new areas of criminality, and we provided better protection and assistance to victims. We are still working on another subject, and that's something that I hope will be successful, namely the directive of victims of violence. Maria Sorello Rodriguez-Palop is the leader of our work on this issue. Ms. Rodriguez-Ramos, I'm sorry, says the President. Thank you very much, Soraya, for your determination and for excellent negotiations. It's an honor to be working with you. Thank you. We also did a lot to assist in legislative work of other commissions. For example, sexual exploitation of children on the internet, hate speech, digital services, and annual budgets. Many of colleagues worked on those issues as well. Also, gender mainstreaming was accepted by all commissions and delegations of the Parliament, and thanks to that, we are now celebrating a week of gender equality. That was initiated by Madame Regner at the time, but that's not a normal routine in Parliament, and it's being celebrated in the fall of each year. Moreover, we did legislative work. We adopted many initiative reports on many issues, such as sexual harassment in the European Union, the assessment of the Me Too movement, reproductive and sexual health women's health, poverty of women, removing the digital gap, the participation of women in digital economy. We organized over 40 public hearings. Perhaps you did not take part in each and every one of them, and the turnout is one of the things that we need to work on. But I must say there are colleagues, female colleagues, who took part in almost each and every one. Madame de la Pisa Carrion is one of those. I'm very thankful to you personally. We could always count on you being here, being present, and your involvement. Thank you for that. We organized a number of international meetings, workshops, studies, and we had many fruitful visits. My thanks go to all colleagues who replaced me and are here with us today. Thank you for giving me a helping hand in leading and presiding this committee. We wouldn't be able to achieve all the results without your assistance. Once again, thank you very much. Okay, there is plenty of work ahead of us as well, and that will be discussed shortly. But before we do so, I will give the floor to our guest commissioner, who was a part and parcel of our success, and without her I wouldn't be able to talk about what we managed to do, because her leading role was very important. I give the floor to Madame Dalli, our commissioner. You have the floor.
Thank you, Robert. You are too kind. Thank you. Too kind. Dear honorable members, well, I guess I can say dear friends, because I have become, I'm so close to many of you that I can count you as my friends. And I really want to thank you for inviting me to the FAM committee to take stock of what we have managed to do and that what we secured during this commission mandate. I'm pleased to report that we have made significant progress when it comes to gender equality, as Robert has just pointed. No, actually, you made a whole list of things that we did, which is very good. And of course, this would not have been possible with the Parliament's work, with the Parliament's hard work. And I therefore thank you for having been consistently vocal and ambitious about our Union of Equality project in general and gender equality in particular. Already during the first 100 days of the Commission's mandate, we marked our commitment to advance gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls by presenting the gender equality strategy. And the aim of the strategy, as you know, is to build a Europe where women and men, girls and boys in all their diversity are free to pursue their chosen path in life, where they can thrive in an equal economy and lead equally throughout our societies. The strategy is articulated around three main pillars: ensuring freedom from gender-based violence and gender stereotypes, making sure that women and men have equal opportunities to thrive on the labor market and in their personal lives, and guaranteeing that women and men have equal chances to lead in our European societies. The last 4 years brought about important legislative and policy developments under all three pillars. The recent political agreement on a directive to combat violence against women and domestic violence is the main milestone, as it is the very first comprehensive legal instrument at EU level in this area. The directive represents an important step towards promoting change in social and cultural patterns of behavior and ultimately reducing the prevalence of all forms of violence against women and domestic violence in the EU. Notably, the criminalization of the most widespread forms of cyber violence is an important step to curb this phenomenon. Moreover, victims of violence against women and domestic violence across the EU will now benefit from the same minimum measures of protection, support, and access to justice. To ensure the effectiveness of the directive's implementation, the Commission will assist EU countries in the transposition process with dedicated workshops. The directive will be further complemented by a recommendation on preventing and combating harmful practices against women and girls. The recommendation will cover harmful practices that disproportionately, as you know, affect women and girls, including female genital mutilation, forced abortion, forced sterilization, child and forced marriage, and honor-related violence. The Commission also set up an EU network on the prevention of gender-based violence and domestic violence. The network provides a forum for national experts to discuss needs for violence prevention, map effective measures and approaches for violence prevention, and exchange good practices. Moreover, to tackle the root causes of discrimination and gender-based violence, we must also combat gender stereotypes. This is why we launched the End Gender Stereotypes campaign. In addition, the EU acceded to the Istanbul Convention, which entered into force last October. This means that the EU is now bound by comprehensive standards to prevent and combat violence against women and domestic violence in its areas of exclusive competency. Taken all together, these measures will contribute to making Europe safer for women in their daily lives and online. We have also come a long way in closing key gender gaps in the labour market. One important aspect that needs to be tackled in this area is the unequal distribution of unpaid domestic work and care responsibilities, as it can hamper women's participation in the labour market. Having accessible and affordable care structures impinges on whether and how women engage with paid work. With the 2019 Work-Life Balance Directive, we ensure better compatibility between work obligations and private life choices, encouraging equal sharing of care responsibilities between men and women. The directive introduces minimum standards on the right to paternity, parental and carers leave, as well as the right to request flexible working arrangements. In September 2022, this instrument was complemented with the adoption of the European Care Strategy, which calls on member states to improve the availability, affordability, and quality of their care services for both childcare and long-term care. We have also put in place a recommendation on early childhood education and care, in which member states committed to specific targets for the participation of children in childcare. Furthermore, last May, the Commission adopted the directive on binding pay transparency measures. Each of these measures on its own is already significant, but together they hold a big transformative potential to help improve women's lives, contribution and participation in the economy. Meanwhile, the work on the directive to strengthen equality bodies, among others, their independence, resources and powers of equality bodies will render these rights more justifiable. I welcome the quick and constructive work of the legislators on this file and thank FAM Committee specifically for your involvement and hopefully the adoption of the directive soon. This will be a major step to achieve the Union of Equality as equality bodies assist victims of discrimination, and these directives will provide them with effective tools to fulfill their mission. With the adoption of the directive on gender balance on company boards, we have taken important steps to ensure that women are represented in leadership positions across the Union. This directive requires listed companies to have at least 40% of the underrepresented gender amongst the members of non-executive boards or 33% amongst all directors. Gender mainstreaming makes gender equality an integral part of broad or sectoral policies, legislative initiatives, or funding programs. Applied systematically, gender mainstreaming can significantly transform societies and institutions. This is why this strategy also highlights the importance of gender mainstreaming and intersectionality as cross-cutting principles. Throughout its mandate, the Commission continued to make progress on mainstreaming gender equality across different EU policies. The Commission's task force on equality continued to support equality mainstreaming, including gender mainstreaming. Equality coordinators have been appointed in all Commission Directorates General and offices, and equality mainstreaming work plans endorsed by senior management in the Commission's Directorates General and offices ensure that the equality dimension is taken into account in the preparation, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of EU policies, legislation and funding programs. Our achievements would not have been possible with the important support, your important support from this Parliament. I thank you once again for the cooperation, your ambition, and your fight to make a difference for women across Europe during this mandate. And I really look forward to this final debate. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Helena. Thank you for your intervention, and well done. You deliver a lot as well as a committee, and so I see a lot of synergies between our work.
I have very good, strong critics here pushing.
True. That's why we are here. Yes. Okay. So with this, I open the floor for our colleagues for their interventions. We will hear first the coordinators of the group or people replacing them, and then we go into a discussion with other colleagues. And in the first round, I give the floor to our great coordinators, whom I also want to thank for all the work you've done and discussions we had during this term. Okay, the first one is Frances Fitzgerald from EPP. Frances, the floor is yours.
Thank you. In some ways, it has all been said. You only need to look around this room to see that none of us do this work on our own. It really is collaborative, and it's about all of us playing our role. And I think that's very evident here this morning. Commissioner, thank you for your leadership. I think it's been a great commission in terms of gender equality. All we have to do is reflect on the points that Robert has made about the waiting times for so many. I think you said 67 years. Is that right? Can hardly believe it. 10 years for the women on boards, 10 years for the Directive on Violence Against Women. So something has happened during this mandate that has enabled these important files to come to fruition. And as always, it is about leadership, it's about commitment, it's about motivation. And we have certainly seen that in this committee, and indeed, obviously throughout the Parliament, because we couldn't have done it without the support of colleagues across the Parliament. But the main work was done in this committee. And Robert, I want to pay tribute to your own leadership. I think it has really been outstanding. And you've led us with great motivation yourself, great interest, great cooperation. You've tried our patience sometimes. You've been so collaborative, but that's all in the interests of getting the files done and getting maximum cooperation. And also, I would pay tribute to Evelyn for the work that she did before you. And as I say, leadership matters. I've been very honoured to be the coordinator for the EPP and to have played a strong role in relation to the input from the EPP and the support of the EPP for all of these files. And indeed, my colleagues have led on a number of them. But it has equally been a pleasure to work with the leaders of the other groups, to work cross-group, cross-party, because I actually am a strong believer in what is central to this European Parliament, which is about consensus building. At the end of the day, the great strength of this Parliament is its consensus building and coming to a solution. In some ways, it's a miracle. I've been saying that recently. It's a miracle that we get so much agreement. because we come from such different groups, such different political orientations, but the strength, and particularly this committee, has not to be separated by ideology, but to move forward in a constructive way in the interests of equality. And I think that has been seen in all of the files, very important files that we have worked on, a great volume of work. And as the Commissioner said, I do believe these have the potential to have a transformative effect, but it is about the implementation now. And I think the next committee will really have to play perhaps a stronger role on monitoring the implementation of the various directives and files and initiatives. So implementation, I think, will be the key going forward, and calling the member states to account to make sure that these directives are transposed properly. In some instances, for example, let's take the directive on violence against women, some member states don't actually have any plans in place. So this directive is truly transformative. And like the others, I do hope that when the vote comes next week, despite a proposal to amend it, that it will get absolute and total support from all groups, and I expect that it will. Certainly could have done without that proposal, but it's there, and let's move forward. I said at the beginning that this is all about everybody in this room, and I really do want to pay tribute to all of our teams. Susanna and your team, I said it last night, thank you so much for your ongoing commitment and support and patience. You and your team have been amazing, and you know, you've had too many meetings, too many reports, too many workshops, but I say that in jest. It's been a very heavy programme and you've consistently supported it, so thank you for that. Let me say thank you to my own team, to Una, who's my main advisor on equality and on the FAM committee, to our EPP staff who are here today, Xenia and Chris, for all of the work that they and their colleagues have done. As I say, we couldn't do it without the massive teams and support that we get right across, including the interpreters, including the administrative staff. Thank you so much for your patience with us. We've frequently gone over time, I know, Robert. That's your problem, Robert. Anyway, look, can I just say a word about the unfinished business, you know, the time ahead. There is unfinished business in equality. There is, I often use the phrase, unfinished democracies, unfinished economies. And we definitely do have those. And there is work to do on each. We do have to defend democracy because it's the authoritarian states who go against equality. And we really have to fight them. And that is a very big issue for us at the moment. I do think there are cutting-edge issues which we haven't been able to address comprehensively, and they include pornography, they include prostitution, they include trafficking of women. These are all connected, and I think we really, in the future, need to do work on looking at those connections right across Europe. We don't have to go outside Europe, but this is part of the agenda that needs to be addressed if we are to vindicate the rights of women, particularly the most vulnerable women, the most marginalised women. So I think we just move on now. We all have work to do. As I say, thank you to everybody. It's been a particular pleasure for me to work with the shadows on the directive on violence. I want to thank them in particular for their cooperation. And as I say, we work on this together, and it's been a very, very productive period, probably one of the best for equality since the EU was founded. So well done to everybody on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francis, and thank you for your leadership as a coordinator of EPP Group. Great work you delivered. And I agree, implementation will be a case. Maybe we should change the name for the next term for Women's Rights, Gender Equality and Implementation Committee, because we delivered so much legislation that there will be, I agree, they will need to monitor implementation a lot. So thank you very much, Francis. Radka Maksova, representing SND Group, our Vice Chair. Radka.
Budu mluvit česky.
I'm going to speak Czech. I thank you all, to you, Ms. Commissioner, to you, Robert, to Evelyn, to us all, because I think we've been a pretty good team. We've supported each other and we've finished a number of the files that you have named and that Francis has named. For me, this was a breakthrough mandate because a huge number of terribly important legislative files have been completed. I also appreciate the work of FAM's office, FAM Secretariat, for fixing many critical issues. I am very happy about two things in particular. It has been my goal in the European Parliament to complete the European Disability Card, to finish that file, and thank you for your support in that. I think we've made the lives of hundreds and thousands and millions of the handicapped, and now for the implementation of now it's up to the member states to implement that legislation, and I agree here with Robert that we should rename our committee to FAM Implementation Committee. I know that the pay transparency issue was completed under the Czech presidency. The chemistry didn't work between the Czech negotiator and Samira, and that's why the negotiator was exchanged, and I'm very happy that under the current conservative Czech government this could be completed. Thank you to you colleagues, including Sylvie, who accepted me during my change during the mandate, and thank you to my colleagues from Renew for their support, and thank you also for the LGBT strategy that was adopted. The topics for the next mandate concern for me most of all gender gap in healthcare and other healthcare issues. Thanks to our committee, this appeared to be a topic that has been neglected so far, albeit an important topic. So this is a huge challenge for the next mandate. And the FAM committee has helped me identify issues that are not regarded as problems in my country, the gender gap in healthcare, this obstetric and gynecological violence issue that we've just heard a presentation of. So I'm really sorry for the speculation in the course of this mandate that this FAM committee might be cancelled or downgraded to a subcommittee. So whoever of you ends up here in the next mandate, please keep up the great work. Thank you.
Radka, thank you very much, and thank you always for your availability. I remember there were times when I was calling you at the latest moment to replace me and to chair the committee, and you were always available and helpful, and a great colleague of you. So thank you for that very much. And delivering also disability card will mark a history, and you did it. So thank you for that. Okay, Maria Soraya Rodriguez Ramos will be now from Renew, our great coordinator. Soraya, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Well, today I think I can say, wow, what an adventure we've had over the last 5 years. And I think I can say with quite some satisfaction that we have attained many of the objectives that the Commissioner presented at the beginning of the legislative period. I'd like to thank you in particular, Commissioner. Thank you for the work that you've done, and particularly your commitment. You have been a steadfast ally to this committee, and you have always fulfilled your responsibilities. You've supported this committee. You've helped us to work on joint strategies with great passion. So thank you very much. And I hope that for the upcoming mandate after the elections, we hope to have a woman like you who can take on the Equality Charter and who can fill your shoes and do great work like you have over the last 5 years. We've spoken about many of the objectives that we have attained, and Francis said that we just have a few days left ahead of the final plenary, where hopefully we can see the adoption of the directive combating violence against women and domestic violence. And this has been a fundamental mandate for equality issues, and that's because in this committee we have seen trust, sincere trust and cooperation between political groups. Despite the differing viewpoints that there are, we have always kept in mind the goal of promoting equality and breaking down the obstacle of discrimination, the discrimination faced by women and girls in the European Union, and we've kept in mind the goal of tearing down that wall in the EU. Of course, we need to continue making progress when it comes to women's equality, and we have moved away from our party politics in order to achieve these goals. So it has been a true pleasure to work hand in hand with all of these women, because mostly this committee is mostly made up of women from the varying political groups, and the leadership that we've seen within these groups has been absolutely crucial. And I think without Frances Fitzgerald, we wouldn't have had the support of her political group, but her bravery, her courage, her commitment, and I think the same can be said for other political groups as well, but particularly to Fitzgerald, I'd like to say thank you in particular. Of course, there is a lot of work left to be done, because we know that true equality has still not been achieved, and we have seen a lot of backsliding. I look at this mandate with one hearing in mind, when we had the mothers of Polish victims who had died due to the restrictions placed on abortion. I still have in my office the photo of these victims, and I remember the pain and the suffering of these restrictions on reproductive rights. Women are dying in the EU, and this is a threat that we cannot avoid. There is a risk here that we might see obstacles in the way of adopting legislation against violence against women. And we see that these people have the duty of upholding the rights of the directive presented by the Commission and the Parliament to stamp out this scourge. But the next mandate in this chamber will continue legislating, and work will continue to be done. And all of the achievements that we have attained on gender equality, we hope that women will move forward, continuing to build on the work that we have done, as have the people who have come before us. It's been a true pleasure to work on these files. And the first thing that we were surprised to see when we came to this committee on women's rights was that we'd have a male chair. But I think what you have shown is that the problem of inequality between men and women are bearing the brunt of that, but our democracies suffer indirectly from these issues as well. No democracy can allow half of the population to not have the same access to rights and freedoms. There is no truly democratic Europe that doesn't allow for these equalities and to have cooperation against violence against women and girls. So thank you to you all. And I'm really sad to say that this is our last meeting, but it's been an absolutely wonderful experience and adventure with you all. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Soraya, and thank you for all your work. I will have 3 memories from our work, if I may. The first one is that with my terrible English, when I was chairing the coordinators meeting, it was very often that some of my colleagues were speaking and trying to be nice and diplomatic on saying what they mean. But you were the only one whom I always understood, because you were always straightforward. You were never playing a game. You were saying, I disagree, and never playing a game. So thank you for that. It made my life and work much easier. The second thing I will remember you is that whenever people, my name is Robert, but you never use the name. Whenever you saw me on the street or on the corridors, you were calling me by my surname. You were saying, "Hi, Biedroń." The only one in the world. And the third thing I will remember you is that I remember the meeting which you mentioned about the women from Poland and abortion issue. And I remember your emotion and how you engage in this discussion. And this I will never forget. Never, ever. Thank you for that. Thank you, Soraya. Okay, Greens and Sylwia Spurek, our great vice chair. Sylwia, the floor is yours, my Polish colleague.
Thank you. I would like to say just two things. First, I would like to thank you, Madam Commissioner. I would like to thank you for your leadership in drafting the first EU directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence, in negotiating the text in the whole legislation process. We all know it's not a perfect law, but it's the first step. And I'm glad we managed to include provisions concerning cyber violence against women, because this is just a new phase of an old problem. Recently, I conducted a study on cyber violence against women in Poland, and the report will be published soon, but we already know the statistics are alarming. We need to address this issue in the law. So it has been a long battle, and thank you for your dedication. And second thing is one regret. It's a pity that during this parliamentary term, we often heard from the Commission that certain women's human rights issues were outside of the competences of the EU. The Commission kept saying it's out of the scope, period. And this should not be a reason to stop the discussion. It should be a reason to start the debate on extending EU competences if necessary and where necessary. I wish I could hear from you in the debate concerning abortion. Let's start the debate. Instead, it's not the competence of the EU. Let us all remember that from the beginning, the competences of the EU has been changing, evolving. If there is a need to change the competences of the EU, otherwise, we cannot achieve gender equality. Otherwise, women's human rights are violated. Let's start talking about it. Let's not close the discussion. So to conclude, I hope to see your dedication in all women's rights issues again in the future. And if, in your opinion, something is outside of the scope of the EU competences, I hope to see you saying, let's start talking about it. And I would like to thank my colleagues and friends, the chair in particular, for our cooperation in the fight for women's rights. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the staff, advisors, and my team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylwia, and thank you very much. If I am to continue this line of memories, if I will have a memory from our cooperation, is that whenever we were agreeing on things and we were looking for a consensus, Sylwia was the one who was pushing forward. She was always saying, don't forget that there is this issue, and don't leave it behind. You were the one who was the avant-garde of so many topics here in this house, and you will be in the future. Thank you for that. An excellent leader. So thank you for that. Okay, and now we go to Margarita de la Pisa Carrion from ECR. Margarita, The floor is yours.
Bueno, pues queridos colegas.
Well, colleagues, I was the one always defending a different vision of women. So I actually think we all want the same thing. We all want to help women. But I think many of the things that are achieved and which are being celebrated today actually work against women. And that's a thought I have to share with you, and it's coming from my heart. Time will tell. Women around the world are suffering serious injustice right now before the law. They're not being treated with dignity, female genital mutilation, that are allowed to wear what they want to wear. All of these things we've discussed, and maybe we weren't effective enough in condemning them, but I think we need to correct our line of fire elsewhere as well. Women can affect peace and well-being around the world, and we all want to achieve that, but it seems that women only have enemies. Men are our enemy. When we work, the employer is their enemy. Children are a threat. Today, again, we saw in the previous hearing, a gynecologist is an enemy. And this victimist situation is before us. So we need constructive and inspiring action. We want to have autonomy and freedom sold to us instead of understanding that everyone, all of us, we need everyone else. And women are no exception. Commitment is an act of freedom as well. Women shouldn't give up their fertility, maternity, femininity to be free. And it's unjust to show family as a burden. We have to protect women and their nature. It's urgent to do so. And now we're seeing that apparently we're working against stereotypes, but at the same time we're creating others, sometimes a caricature. Now, it's ridiculous. Asked about what women are, people can't answer out in the street. We're creating other stereotypes. Men are being seen as aggressive by nature, unfairly, in concepts such as gender violence. And we don't look at the actual aggressors sometimes, and things are put across as criminal acts. We're not addressing that, but we have to look at relationships amongst ourselves. And I hope that we will be able to together build something. It's also, and this is the most painful thing to us, I see that this chamber is pushing for abortion rights. I think that really being mothers is one of the greatest things we can do as women, but it's seen as a threat, not the greatest wealth and joy a woman, but not only women, society as well can have. And we need to create value for our existence. We have to understand the dignity of life, which shouldn't be questioned by the quality of life, the age, capacity, size, or the conditions in which the mother exists. And I hope that in the next Parliament, this committee will also be ready to help women to welcome the joy of life, because sometimes we're pushed to take decisions, and that's what gives rise to this type of result. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, Margarita. And this is what I expected. Thank you for taking out us from our bubble. You are perfect in that. So this is what the Parliament is for, that we hear different opinions. We sometimes disagree, but that's why we are here. And if there is one person who was always here, is Margarita. She was always saving us from troubles. Whenever there were hearings, discussions, Margarita was there. She was always, you were always prepared, and you were always taking the position. And I want to thank you for that, Margarita. The diligent member of this committee, it's you, if there is the best example. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. It was an honor to work with you. I never thought I would say it about ECR. It was an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you all. It was a pleasure to have the opportunity to meet each other, and I hope that the space for reflection and debate, it's an opportunity to find better solution for the citizens, that they have the confidence in the representatives, in the deputies. Thank you.
That's why we are here. Thank you, Margarita. Thank you for everything. Okay, this was the list of our coordinators. Margarita is a coordinator of ECR, so she ended up the interventions of our colleagues from the political groups. And now we go into interventions of our colleagues. We need to be very short because interpreters, we really push the boundaries with the interpreters far. I have Samira Rafaela first. Samira, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, first of all, Robert, dear Chair, I would like to start with thanking you amazingly for your wonderful leadership. I really appreciated that you have always given us the space. You were really like creating and pushing for the space also for your other mainly female colleagues to be seen. And that's just very important and impactful that you have been doing as a great gender champion also in your country, Poland. And I'm very honored that I could work with you. So thank you so much for taking up this leadership. You've done excellent. And indeed, also these words for our colleague Evelyn Regner. Thank you both for showing this leadership. To Commissioner Dalli, well, I mean, it's evident you've been an excellent commissioner. Thank you for your leadership. You were very brave. We all know that certain topics were not easy for you to push. You've done that. You've always listened to the Parliament, and your door is always open. And that's just very valuable. So, I mean, I don't have enough words in this short time to express my gratitude and how thankful I am for all the work that you've been doing, but really from the bottom of my heart, you've done amazing, and thank you for that. I also would like to take the opportunity to thank my colleagues and especially my dear coordinator, Soraya, who've done an amazing job for Renew. It was a pleasure and honor to work with you all, and I really hope to stay in touch, even though some of us will leave the Parliament. On the Pay Transparency Directive, yeah, I mean, this is a big proud. This is a big legacy that we can all take home. I mean, that couldn't be possible also without the amazing work of all the policy advisors, my own staff. I mean, we really need to recognize their work in this. For us as members of European Parliament, this is a dream coming true, that our legislation is being put forward, but that wouldn't be possible without the work of all the advisors. So thank you for that. And on the Pay Transparency Directive, I indeed wonder, very curious about the implementation phase. So what do you expect will be next? So what needs to be done also on the member states level? They play a very important role in that. Where should we pay specific attention? And do you also have examples maybe already of member states that are already doing a good job where we can learn from? My last point would be on the backlash against women's rights, the anti-rights movements. I mean, I think it is very obvious that we have a lot of work to do, and we need to keep protecting our values, specifically the rights of the LGBTI community and the bodily autonomy of women. I hope that in the coming future, we really strategize against these anti-rights movements. I think they are really undermining all the great values that we have been so much fighting for. And this is just really worrying. And when it comes to restricting freedoms of women, we can just not take it for granted. So therefore, I really hope that the future of this committee is positive, that we will keep having this committee, and that it will not be downsized to somehow of a subcommittee. So if anything can be done still in the next coming months, dear Chair, also for us to push for that message, then I think we should really do that. And my last point to the Commissioner would be on women's health. There appears to be a disparity also in the research and funding directed towards health issues traditionally associated with women and women's bodies. From the research that I could do already, this is very worrying. So for the coming time, for the coming years, we really need to invest more in research, in funding for programs to detect and also explore where certain specific gender-related women's issues, women's health issues are coming from. Because a lot of women are suffering because they don't know about their body, they don't understand their body. So I hope that this is really a topic that you can still carry on for the time that you are sitting here. Thank you, dear colleagues.
Thank you, Samira. It was an honor and pleasure working with you. What an inspiration you are for all of us. Thank you for that. And good luck with whatever it will be. I'm sure you will be still a champion on this. So thanks for that. Okay, Maria Leitão Marques, next one.
Very, very short. I'm going to speak in Portuguese. It's the last meeting. Thank you very much. Muito obrigada a todos os colegas.
Thank you very much, everyone. In this committee, although I was a standing member, I always felt like I was a permanent member of the committee. I'd also like to thank my coordinator, although she's not here today. I think that this mandate was characterized by two feelings. We were here to safeguard those who need us, but we see that this may be called into question. For example, in Portugal at the moment, there's a central right government that is proposing a status of a woman in the house, not looking after the children, but rather a housewife. So that's something that we thought we'd never see again. We need to continue making progress in fields where we haven't achieved our objectives, for example, pay transparency, violence, and now the new forms of cyber violence as well. We do have, therefore, many challenges ahead of us. We did make great strides forward, as Francis said. We managed to achieve majority support and consensus on some key issues, as we saw on the vote on the agreement of last year on sexual and reproductive health. Commissioner, I'd like to thank you for your work. There are two challenges I want to mention that I think through my work here are two challenges where we have come up a bit short and where we could have gone further. Firstly, on care duties, care tasks. This is something that is at the origin of many other issues. We oftentimes see that women are overwhelmed with care tasks. This should be a report from our committee, not from the EMPL committee. Oftentimes, women cannot take up posts that they've been invited to. For example, they can't be MPs, they can't participate in politics, they aren't able to make progress in their careers at a professional level. There are a huge number of injustices and inequalities that stem from this basic injustice. So I think we need to go above and beyond our EU guidelines. And then foreign policy. Samira mentioned this. She fought for that when she presided over the Women's Forum. We know that equality and women's rights issues need to go hand in hand, need to be involved in our foreign policy. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you to everyone, all colleagues in the room. It has been a real pleasure when we were in agreement and also when we disagreed as well.
With all the work you will do as well. A great leader of you, and I worked on so many issues with Maria, and thanks for that, and we will have also great memories from this work. Okay, men played important role in our committee, as we remember. We need them on board as well, so maybe it's symbolic that the last speaker will be our male colleague, Gaia Lavocar, who is our great colleague of this committee, is the last speaker on my list. So, Guy, the floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je vais m'exprimer.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll speak French. Thank you, Robert. I've only been here a few weeks. I replaced Stéphane Séjourné in February, but everything that I've experienced over the last weeks have illustrated to me the way in which this committee has been tremendously active and is doubtless going to stand out in this term amongst all the topics that have been dealt with in the House. I'd also like to thank you, Robert, in particular, because you welcomed me very warmly and very kindly. I think that in the fight that you've been fighting here in this House and the fights you've been fighting back home in Poland, you've shown that you're a man of empathy and understanding, and I think this is key if you're going to chair a committee of this kind. I understand the emotion now. You're about to step down from this office, and I'm extremely honoured to be here with you. The other gender speaking in this committee, in the last committee before the elections, I think equality of men and women is, above all, a matter for men as much as it is for women. So I'd like to thank all my colleagues, even my male colleagues, even if they're not here now, for the work that they've done in this committee, and obviously the team, the secretariat of the committee, the assistants who've worked to help gender equality through this Parliament. And thank you to the Commissioner as well for the quality of your listening. You've always lent an ear, even to those projects that didn't lead to a conclusion. And I think that's something we all appreciate. So thank you very much for the vision you've had for equality between men and women in the European Union. And the European Parliament has said that it wants to keep bodily autonomy for European women and a free and open and universal access to health and reproductive sexual and reproductive health, particularly abortion rights. And it's the third time that the European Parliament has made that demand. We've already put it to the Commission after the shocking turn of events in June 22 in the United States, and then here when the treaties were revised back in 2023. And so the context we find ourselves in when it comes to rights and the right to an abortion and women's rights generally have tended not to progress, but rather to retreat. And in the least developed European countries, it's said that there's been progression in Malta, Hungary, Slovakia, but that's not really the case. And so, Madam Commissioner, what follow-up will you give to the European Parliament's treaty on this right to abortion, the abortion right? Now, we'll not be modifying the treaties in the weeks or months ahead, but what types of action will you be proposing in the next term to help push sexual and reproductive rights forward? We know that Europe can offer European women the very best by not looking away when there are retrograde and backward-looking operations underway in some parts of the European Union.
Isn't he a man we want to have in the committee as male champions for equality? Thanks for your leadership. He's the youngest member of our committee. Hey, he's learning fast. Oh, thank you for that. Okay, I want to thank our interpreters. We ran out of the minutes we had. 10 minutes, so we will not more bother interpreters who helped us in so many situations during this term of working the committee. So thank you very much, dear colleagues, for helping us understand each other better. Without you, we wouldn't make it that easy. So big applause to our interpreters. Thank you. And with this, With this, we will continue in English only. I'm sorry, they deserve some rest. We need to also respect their working hours. So thanks very much for your work, dear friends, dear colleagues. And I will give the floor now to our Commissioner, Helena Dalli. If I may ask for short comments. I know you're good in that, so thank you.
I will try to touch upon everything, but I think it's quite an impossible task. So thank you all for your comments and for your work, especially. I will start with Francis. Oh, she's gone.
She's gone.
Okay, but right. She's right. There's a lot of unfinished business still, and she mentioned pornography, prostitution, human trafficking. So these are all areas which the Commission will need to go into, and hopefully in the next term, and hopefully with another Commissioner for Equality. And here I want to appeal to you to really, to push for another Commissioner for Equality, because of this reason. There is so much unfinished business still that needs to be done. Madame Maxova, you spoke about, I thank you for your work on the disability card. I'm very happy with what we have. Sure, we can do more, we can always do more, but as you know, we have to work within the constraints of our competences and be careful not to impinge upon the competences of the member states. So really, it's a balancing act. And you speak about gender gaps. Gender gaps are everywhere, as you rightly point out, in health, in many areas, which we may not have had the time to discuss here. So it is important that you bring up these gaps for the Commission to be able to explore and work on. Soraya Ramos, you spoke also about, oh, she's gone as well, a new commissioner for equality, and she made a very good point to move away from party politics in order to be able to achieve good results, because when we speak the different parties together, our interest is one: the advancement of women, women's rights. So when we get together and try to put aside of course we all come with our ideals and with our beliefs, but in order to achieve progress, we need to converge on our proposals in order to get results. And I have seen this happening here, so I really thank you for this. So I also mentioned, the backsliding, and we have to keep on working, as you all pointed out. And I like to say that now we have, after this commission, we have a strong foundation on which we can keep on building a strong edifice. And so I think that's very important to keep in mind. Sylvia Spurek on the Violence Against Women Directive, not perfect, of course it's not, and you know that I am not completely happy about it, but at least we have managed to achieve a minimum. Okay, so we can keep on building on that too. Hopefully, you speak about cyber violence in Poland, and you speak also about EU competencies and to start a debate and not to close the discussion. And I link this to what Guy. But the French say Guy, I think. Huh? Guy. Okay, Guy.
Yes.
So what Guy said about our competences, and do we stop there and say, but that is a whole discussion. My job here is to guard the treaties. I can't go beyond that, of course. But if there's a discussion on changing, of course, surely a discussion is most welcome. But in the ambit of what we have, this is as far as we can go. So, but I understand what you are saying, Guy, and what Sylvia is saying. And if there are more of you who are saying this, maybe the debate there will start as well. Madame de la Pisa-Carrion, women can affect, and definitely, yes, the family is not a burden. Of course, the family is not a burden. If we looked at the family as a burden, we would not have worked on the work-life balance directive. The work-life balance directive is there to help families, and also especially to help especially women, because sometimes it is the women who have to choose whether to have a career or to have children. We are saying that women, if they so choose, they can do both, but member states and the European Union should help these women with structures, with strong structures, which can support our families. We need to have children. As you know, Europe is aging, and in most member states, we have a low fertility rate, and we must work on that. But we must have more of these proposals and directives and policies in order to help families balance their work and their careers and their families, because sometimes the decision is either not to work or not to have children. So let's not put people in this position when we can help them to be able to do both. And we need them to do both. We need parents to be in the labor market. We don't want to lose their talent, but we need parents also to have children. So let's work on, and that is also why we worked on the care strategy. The care strategy, we changed the Barcelona targets on childcare. These are the reasons why. This is because we believe that the family is a strong building block in every society in the European Union and in the world, and we must support that. So definitely we do not look at the family as a burden. No, we want to ease the burden of the families. Yes. So thank you for yeah. But also we must understand that there are 8 million women in the EU who are qualified. We have invested in their training and their education, but they are at home obliged to do care work. They want to be in the labor market. So we must help them and support them to be in the labor market and also be present in their families. Samira, yes, implementation on the pay transparency. What I can say is the Commission is working with member states. We've also started organizing workshops on how this pay transparency we're going to deliver. On this, I want to thank the services for the great work that they are doing there. But as you rightly point out, yeah, we have to be very vigilant to see this directive come into fruition, because it is something which has been in the treaties, the equal pay for equal work, for how many decades?
67 years.
And actually, it's not a reality for many women in the European Union. So it's very important that we see that also the next Commission sees to the implementation of this directive. Maria Marquez, still many challenges ahead of us. Yes, and you speak about care duties, and I think it is of the essence that we look at the care strategy and we continue building on it. I also want to say that 90% of workers in the care sector are women as well. And it is regarded as the Cinderella of employment. So we must look at care from the perspective of the conditions of employment of care workers. Remember, we were clapping during COVID for the care workers, but clapping is not enough. We really must look at the conditions of employment of care workers. And then also we see the provision of workers, these 8 million women, because they are tied down to care work, whether because they have young children, or because they have elderly parents, or because they have a person with a disability in their home, and they cannot contribute to the economy because of this constraint, in the sense that there is not enough care work available to see to these needs of these families. So mostly it's the women then who have no option but do this informal care work, I would say, with the consequence of coming to the age of retirement, and when they look at their pension, because they have not contributed but they have worked only informally, we know that what the pensions gap is also. So as you can see, it is all connected. And Guy, thank you for being on board. We need more men. We don't want to. We are all converted that we know that we need to work more for women and women's rights. That is why we are here. But the more men we have, and the more we explain to boys what we are doing and what needs to be done, I think that the stronger that this committee will be. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for, as Samira said, I had an open door policy, and I learned a lot from you. I must say I used also your efforts and your critique as I would go. It was all power to my elbow, because I would say, look at what the parliament is saying, and I know that you are right, but your critique it made me much stronger when I had to negotiate in other places. Okay, so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for making my work a bit easier, I would say, because I knew I had your support. And that was very important for me. So thank you, and I hope in the next legislature, those of you who will be here will continue to work as hard as you did in this committee. Thank you, Robert, and thank you all.
Thank you, Helena. Thank you very much. We were very lucky with you, having you and your leadership and your expertise and determination. You are a role model for many of us, and we wish you all the best. And I hope the next commissioner will be also as good as you are. It will be very difficult to find one like that, but we look forward. Dear colleagues, so with this, I was afraid that the next term of the parliament will start if we continue talking. It still didn't start. I want to thank all of you for your work, all the rapporteurs, shadow rapporteurs. I want to thank interpreters. They left, but I want to thank them, translators, lawyers, linguistics, the legal service, press service, all our great secretariat staff with Susanna's leadership. The work you've done is tremendous. It's all also because of you. So thank you for that. All the advisors from the political groups, you were excellent. Sometimes you were the troublemakers for me, but your expertise was excellent. Thank you for that. Really, you led us to this situation, and thank you for that. Our APAS, excellent advisors of our APAS. Thank you, all of you. With this, we go for the next term, and I'm sure if there is, I'm atheist, but if there is somewhere Simone Weil, she would be proud of us. Thank you for that. Okay, the last message I have is to invite you for drinks. We have something to celebrate. We never go down, but we always go up, but this will be the exception. We go one floor down to celebrate on the third floor straight away for the drinks. See you there in a few minutes. And with this, I close the last meeting of this committee. Thank you very much.